it's a major challenge for anyone to develop into the true role of a franchise quarterback. I mean, you're sitting next to the one, Josh, here, the last one this franchise truly had. What stage do you think you're at in that process of becoming a true franchise QB?
Tough question. I'm really not really focusing on that. I'm focusing on trying to help this team win football games. Everybody knows who J.K. is and what he's done here, and obviously that's the type of football and the type of level that obviously I want to get to and get this team to, and that's really all I'm worried about is trying to win football games for this team.
And that's what you have to do. The expectation, though, when you're a 7th overall pick, I mean, Jim understands this. What do you see, Jim, when you look at Josh at this stage of his career?
I look and wish that I had his talent, especially his running talent. Maybe I wouldn't have played so long, but no, I see everything you want as a quarterback. I even emphasized this to him a little while ago that my toughest year was my second year. I think I threw 15 touchdowns, maybe 17 interceptions. It's not easy, especially when teams start to learn who you are and what you're capable of doing. And I think he's doing awesome. He just has to keep that pace. And you know what? I think a lot of times when I look, people put too much emphasis on good and bad games when it takes a good wide receiver. It takes a good offense line, and probably just as important as that, it takes good play calling. And because you always want to be able to look who your weapons are. You want to be able to know your strengths and your weaknesses, especially from a coaching and quarterback standpoint. Because, I mean, you probably remember back when I played, I was blessed because I had 2 Hall of Famers, James Lofton and Andre Reed. But the thing is, the communication that the quarterback has with his receivers is so important because, for example, the touchdown you were talking about before we started this to Brown, that you talked to him prior to, that if they come in this coverage, be ready for this. I'm going to come back. Boom, it turned out to be a touchdown. That's what you need. You need that camaraderie. You need that togetherness because, and I asked Josh this a little while ago about how much talking does he do in the meetings. I'm not talking about team meetings. I'm talking about quarterbacks and receivers. Because that's when you really learn about each other, is making sure that you both are on the same page. I know it's a little cliche, but when it comes to developing a relationship on the football field, you need to spend that time together so you both understand on a certain play or a certain coverage, this is what I'm looking for you to do. And if you do it, and you do it over and over again, boy, I'll tell you what, that can develop into a heck of a 1-2 combo.
When you had a chance to talk about Jim's use of the K-gun, that tempo offense, and during that whole Super Bowl run, Josh, what did you take from that? And when you've watched him on film, and what are some of the specific elements of that maybe you've seen and incorporated into your game?
Yeah, well, I mean, to be honest, we've stolen a few plays from what they did back in the day. And then obviously getting to talk to him about just eyes and progressions and what he was thinking, who he was looking at. So I've been able to take some of those and apply it to the game field. But when you look at the K-gun and what they did back in the day, kind of being up-tempo, keeping everybody on their heels, he was calling the plays. You know, and what he saw is how he addressed it, and you know, he was right most of the time.
Most of the time?
Most of the time, you know. And I guess that's why he's got a gold jacket, you know. No, but I mean, I'm still growing, I'm still learning, and to be in that position where you can go up and call the whole game from the quarterback position, it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable recall. You have to have a great mind for it. You really do. To see a defense, think of every single play that you've got in your playbook and then call the given play and allow everybody to kind of hear it and then go through it and obviously run it at a high level.
What are those conversations like from your perspective? Again, you started something at the time so revolutionary, and it's become a thing that other teams have used successfully, but really that was the pioneer time that you guys did it.
I loved it. I was blessed to have a coach that allowed it. I knew what I liked to do. I knew the plays I liked. I knew the plays I did not like. And Ted Marchibroda was with a great mind, but was so understanding. I remember when Frank and I used to come into meetings on Tuesday or Wednesday, and all of a sudden Ted would just say, "Okay, what do you guys have?" Because we already would think a couple plays that we liked, that we saw from film we'd watch the first 2 days, Monday and Tuesday. And but I was blessed to have them have the confidence in me to get up and call the plays. And I know I talked to Coach Dorsey too a little bit about it, because a lot of times I'm not talking about the Buffalo Bills, but a lot of quarterbacks, and you guys every once in a while, you look at your wristband and you're talking for a good 3-4 seconds. That's a lot to be able to do when you're calling a play and it takes that long to get a play called. And then you as a quarterback got to think, okay, this here. Instead, our plays, when I would go 8, we'd call the formation, and we'd go 93 double cross. That's all. Other than that, is be able to say something quick enough that quarterback doesn't have to always think all the time. It's not all the thinking you're doing, it's a reaction. Being able to react right away. And he's got the mind to be able to do that, because a lot of times I watch him, especially early on when I came to training camp, the way he goes about talking to the receivers when they come back after a route, if it was run wrong or if it was perfect, how he was able to communicate to these guys. That's what you need to continue to do, and you've been doing that. And I think the more you go, with this offense, the more you guys are going to light it up. And I'm excited, and he knows that it takes time, though. I mean, you're not going to do miracles after 1 or 2 years. It's going to take a little time.
Jim, when you mention, that you can't overthink, you need to be in a position where you can just react. It brings to mind a comment you made after the Cleveland game, where it was relative to the deep balls and trying to get your interception numbers down and fear of underthrowing receivers. Instead, you overthrow them. How much was the Miami game a step in the right direction for you in that regard?
The Miami game wasn't just a step in the right direction for me. I think it was a step in the right direction for our team. How we came out, how we played, but going back to the Cleveland loss, how we handled that situation, how we addressed practice, how we went about it the entire week, how we game planned, how we talked to each other, and we weren't going to let that game ruin us. We didn't want that game to cost us 2 weeks. So, we put our hard hats on and went to work and came out and played like we needed to, and that's how we're going to have to play in the next few weeks too. And we got a tough schedule coming up, and I don't expect anything less. We're going to go out and attack each week.
Getting over the fear of making the mistake, the concern about the interception, how much of a challenge is that? And Jim, as you said, you threw your fair share in your career. Take me through what it's like to walk that tightrope, both of you.
As far as like that line, the balance between
you
being
said play fearless,
risk taker,
but not reckless, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Where's the balance?
Depends on the type of game. I think if it's a field position game, each team's trying to control the clock, the weather's a factor, taking those risks aren't worth it. Other times, the other offense is playing very well. You got to continue to score. You got to take some chances and put the ball in the air. And I think that's where the more you play, the more games that you're in, that experience helps you out in that aspect.
What was that like for you, Jim, back in the day?
We didn't worry about any of that. My mindset was always focused on what part of the game you're in and what do I need more right now. Take a chance on a big play or moving the clock.
What's the relationship like between the two of you, and how much has he shared with you? How much do you discuss, and how much has it helped you?
I mean, he shared it a lot. He's been an open book. Remember one of my first days at rookie minicamp, he was there, got the chance to meet him. Obviously, I was shaking like no other. But what he's talked to me about, how he's allowed me to kind of be a part of his and pick his brain, and we spent some time together going to his lodge and doing this and that, going to his house, and he's been fantastic. I can't thank him enough for what he's done for me and what he continues to do for me, and how he's kind of teaching me and taking me under his wing. It's been awesome.
Sean talked about the internal leadership that this team showed, especially leading up to that Miami game, and it was a message that he drove home all week long. And then, of course, it culminates Saturday night with Tremaine Edmonds saying what he said to the entire team to really inspire you guys and play better and be dominant. So, first of all, take us inside of that, if you can, and what Tremaine's words meant to you as well as the rest of the team.
I think I can speak for the rest of my team when I say this. Tremaine doesn't say a whole lot. So when he does say something, especially to that magnitude, it means a lot to everybody. It's just like, okay, like this guy means it. There's no playing around with Tremaine. He's fantastic. He's an animal on the field. Such a good dude off the field too. And to be able to kind of be in that same situation that he's the quarterback of the defense. We came in the same year together, both first-round guys, both a lot of pressure, I guess you can say, on us. But the talks that we've had with each other, with Coach McDermott, we don't really think of that. You know, we're just trying to help this team win football games, and I think we do share similar leadership styles where we don't like to say a whole lot. We like to go out there. We like to do, and so when we do have our opportunity to go up and speak in front of the team, and what Tremaine did was fantastic.
And Jim, the teams you're on, of course, including yours, had a lot of big personalities.
No.
This just in. And Marv Levy let those personalities be what they were. And I always sensed that he led you, but you led yourselves too in so many ways. Take us inside that.
The bottom line was respect, because Marv knew where our hearts were. Marv knew the way we practice. Marv knew not how we did away from the football field, because we had fun, as everybody knows. But he realized that when we were ready to play football, we were there. And I guess our voice more in the locker room was Steve Tauscher, of course. Steve was always a big one. Darryl Talley. Bruce and Darryl never said a lot, or Thurman. They let their talking, show on the football field, and they were very good at that. But when they did speak, cliche, when they speak, you listen. Those guys, we knew that we did not have to have a lot of those, but when we had them, we had probably, I'd say 2, maybe 3 at the most, players-only meetings. And Marv respected that, because he knew that when we had those, they needed to have them. And we respected everything Marv. Marv wasn't the type of guy, as you well know, that would be screaming and yelling. He never did that. Marv always knew what to say and when to say it. And we knew a lot of times some of the stuff he said, we had no idea what he was saying. And his old saying is, hey, Thurman, look that up and let everybody else know what I just said. And he had a way with our team that just rubbed us the right way, and we loved it. And I see some of that with Coach McDermott, even though he's probably more of a stern guy. As long as you buy into what they're dishing out, then it's working.
You're not in the room every day, but you're around these guys. Can you draw comparisons in terms of internal leadership and that dynamic to the teams that you led?
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, the thing is, when you are together and you know who your leaders are, and I remember when he first got here, I can just tell he was going to be a leader just by listening to him, how he was talking to the players. He didn't really know a lot, but he knew enough to stay back and let everybody do their thing. And it'll take time to really get that mindset that everybody buys into what you're telling them. And I think that's one of the things that you need in that locker room. You need it from your quarterback. Even though people say, well, he's not really a big leader. Yeah, you either are or you aren't. And most quarterbacks are, but the ones that aren't probably don't have a gold jacket and probably don't have a Super Bowl ring and probably are not very successful. You need your quarterback to be your leader, because he calls the shots because he touches the football every single snap. So the respect that you get from your teammates is so important. When he talks about leadership, this is a guy that is definitely going to be one of those guys that we're going a long way. But the thing is, patience. You have to learn the offense. You have to learn your players probably more than anything. And get that rapport from your coordinator, Coach Dable, that you need those things. These are plays I like. These are plays I don't like. And if it ever comes a point in the game where the play's coming in late, call your own play.
He said you have that option, right?
Yeah. There was a couple times this Sunday I did it, and it worked out to our advantage there.
Wow,
so.
you're listening now.
Yeah, they were it was a third down, one of our first third downs. They were trying to sub out, and I called the play, and we got them for 12 men on the field and got a first down.
Yep.
There's a couple other ones, but we'll keep those.
He's listening to Uncle Jim.
Uncle Jim.
So here these guys are 7-3, and they've taken a lot of heat for it along the way, right? Relatively soft schedule, and present company included. I think we've pointed that out. When you hear that,
Yeah, for sure.
right? Is that fair?
Yes. Well, you got to do your job, and it's what you feel and what you hear. For us, a lot of times it bums you out, but it makes you work harder. I think more important, and I've told Josh, and I think he already knows this stuff, the bottom line is when you get into a situation when you're playing where the Patriots have won, I don't know how many straight divisional championships, not a lot, you can't afford to lose to the teams that you're supposed to beat. You just can't.
I'm sure you hear to some extent what's said from the outside and how the team is viewed. What's your reaction to that?
All I know is it's tough to win football games in this league, no matter who you play. 7-3 is a whole lot better than being 3-7.
You got that right.
So we're finding ways to win football games, and obviously there's been a couple that we've had and weren't able to close out how we would like to. And you know, if winning was easy, everybody would be doing it. So as a team, we're very headstrong. We're very internally driven. We don't really need outside forces or people telling us this and that.
This is small market, and the quarterback of the Buffalo Bills is almost always the biggest fish in this small market. So, Jim, what's been your advice to Josh on handling that? You had some rough waters with that early on in your time here, with all the attention and such. What do you say to him?
I haven't said a lot to him about that. I think more what he's really just got to focus on, like he's been saying. Just keep the togetherness that they have right now, offense and defense, the fight that they have. And he's right, because it's not easy, as we all, each and every one of us know that. But the thing is, just go out there, keep working, and the more you spend time with your receivers, the more you work on individual things, the more you communicate what's in your mind to them, the more the offense will start getting to where the defense is at now. I mean, I know they both need to work on different things. That's part of life. That's part of the game. But you just have to really focus on what you need to work on during the course of a game that you're not maybe quite where you want to be.
That's the football part of it. But the idea of embracing Buffalo as a community, and that's something you didn't do necessarily initially. Take us
Really?
back to that point. Yeah. Right?
Trust
true,
me.
man.
Trust me. I know. I get drafted by much. I ain't going there. Well, I didn't. And I made that great decision. I came here. Well, thank God for that. Yep.
Off the field.
wants me
Have
to-
you given
he
him
wants-
advice? I mean, you've done a lot in the community.
Yeah, the main advice I think JK has given me is taking over his golf tournament.
Make him my football camp
No.
one day.
Yeah, no.
I'm
no.
kind of old to
He-
throw these guys.
Yeah,
by the way.
no, he's been awesome just as far as how to embrace the community here, how to embrace the city, you know, what looks good, what doesn't look good, and he's been awesome with trying to help me with the demographic of Buffalo.
And I've seen, you know, the children's hospital work you've done. I've seen you show up at high school football games on the bye week as a surprise. What's your philosophy on that, Josh, in terms of trying to integrate yourself into this community and at the same time focus on football?
So I just really, it's very simple with me. I try to be a good person. I want to help out. I want to give back to the community that has obviously helped me in my life. And being the quarterback of the Buffalo Bills, this community deserves a lot. And that's what I want to do for them, is get this thing back rolling to, you know, what JK had in the early 90s here, and that sustained success that everybody so wants. But off the field stuff, I mean, I remember being that kid looking up to football players and looking up to professional athletes. So I told myself, if I ever get in this position, that I do everything in my power to make every, you know, kid feel like that I know about them and I care about them, because there's a few times when I was little, I've said the story a couple times, I won't mention names, but I went to a San Francisco Giants game, and someone had a really good game, and all I wanted was just him to come out, sign a ball, say hello, because we got these little underground tunnel seats or whatever, and we got to watch players come from the dugout to the clubhouse. And there was a few players that came out and signed and said hello, and the guy that I really wanted opened the door, put his hat down, and walked the other way. Didn't look at us, didn't wave at us, and I would have sufficed for a wave or a high five or anything like that, but just how he handled the whole situation, I was mortified. I was like, something inside me was like, it's broken. And I told myself, if I ever get in a position like this, I wouldn't do that to a kid.
And it has to register with you all these years later, since he's been out of football as a player, how much impact he can still have in this community. You have to be looking at that and saying, that can be me at some stage many years down the line.
Absolutely. And, you know, the thing is, we know that what Jim said prior to him coming to Buffalo, and now he's lived here his entire life. You know, that only shows, that shows a lot of things, but it shows how much he embraced this community, how much the community embraced him. So it speaks a lot to kind of what Buffalo's about.
And the thing about Josh is he doesn't have to try to be a good guy. He is a good guy. I just watch him from the time he stepped into the role as the quarterback, as the community leader. He's done an amazing job. I think nobody will ever second question or second guess anything he does as far as the Buffalo area. I just pray, like we all do, that this leads to him being here for about 15 years and taking over my football camp for kids, my golf tournament. We can think of a few other things, but give us a little time.
We'll talk.
When you see Jim and what he represents to this community now, in terms of the fight he's had against cancer, what do you see? What are your impressions of him?
I mean, one, that he's a warrior. Two, the support that he's had, you know, from his family to the people of Buffalo to people around the world, really. You know, he's touched this game in a major way. He's got a gold jacket and he's got a legacy here in Buffalo. And like, I go out to eat and I get kind of mugged sometimes, and like people coming up to me, and I couldn't imagine him because I've went to Ellicott with him. Is it Ellicott?
Ellicottville.
Ellicottville. And I mean, everywhere we went, it's just like swarm. And I mean, just that means a lot, just because they respect him for not only what he did on the field, they respect him for what he has done off the field, and respect the challenge or the challenges that he's overcome, the obstacles he's overcome, and the warrior that he is.
Put this way, it's been a while since I've been here, and I know people, always want to know when's that next quarterback going to be here. This guy has stepped into that role and not only has been the quarterback we all prayed that he would be, but for the community, you've got a guy that has embraced every single place here. He's made everybody feel that you're home. This is my home too. So I'm excited to see what they bring, and I'm excited just to get it rolling and keep winning.
Yes, sir. Let's do it.